Totally.
Got me with my mush down. There we go. Hey everybody, Uncle Rich here for Who's Telling the Truth. Tonight's gonna be an adventure, guys. Today is it's show 57, and we had to name the show More Musk, and we're gonna use the excuse while we didn't finish with the Musk clip last Monday. But guys, to be honest with you, I had a problem with my converter. William was nice enough to help me. I thought I downloaded everything properly, and guess what? None of the clips took. So tonight we have to wing it. So we're gonna have to use some of the clips that we got out of the archives, and we're just gonna do the best we can. I mean, what do you do? I mean, stuff happens, you know? But today's show, I wanted to talk about the cultural revolution when it comes to solar. And you're going to say, you know, what do you mean cultural revolution? You know, John, can you throw up one of the stills from the guys? I'm sure you guys have been watching the World Cup, and we have a couple of stills from the World Cup. So, John, if you just take a good look around, guys. And John, if you go to, and just see if you seem to notice anything. But I mean, let's go to the next one. Okay, did you guys kind of pick up anything off the billboards there? Guys, Ying Lee Solar is sponsoring the World Cup. And we wanted to show you a dynamite clip from them, but like I said, we had problems. But when I was watching the games, I was looking at the advertising, and of course, you know, if you go back to them again, you know, you'll see some of the advertisers at McDonald's, but they were changing the whole boards like every 30 seconds, and I tell you, they're gorgeous. And when you look at everything, and you know, once again, you know, you could see the guy standing in front of the LI for the Ying Lee, but it's unbelievable. This company only didn't exist 20 years ago, and they're going to put solar on. You know, anybody you want solar, they're going to make it happen. And you know, when it comes to solar, you know, I've been sunbathing. It's finally nice enough where I can do some sunbathing. And I'm sitting there, and I call it getting my fair share of vitamin D, instead of, you know, where you kind of, you know, you, for the vanity reasons. I do it for the medicinal reasons, for the vitamin D. But anyway, I'm out there, and, you know, the first few minutes, you know, you're sitting there and it's a little chilly, and after 5 minutes you're going, wow, I can't believe how strong the sun is. Well, guys, can you imagine if you were a solar panel? And I mean, no, really. But think about the fact that the solar panels act like an umbrella over your roof, so your roof doesn't get hit with all the hot rays, so you don't have to cool it that much to begin with. And, you know, I wanted to bring up the idea of the solar umbrella because, you know, the fact with the solarized Brookfield, and with my daughter, you know, as we grew up, I would always kid her, and I would always say to her, Diana, there's 3 types of people in the world. And I still to this day, I'll just, Diana, well, you know, tell me what types of people there are. And there's 3 types of people. There are those types of people that make things happen. There are those types of people that watch what happens. And there are those types of people that wonder what happened. And guys, when it comes to solar, we want you to pick up the phone and be one of those types of people that makes things happen. And by doing the show, all we want to do is we want to keep reinforcing how valuable solar is. We call it trickle-down economics because you let the money trickle down from your roof into your pocketbook. The one guy in Danbury, he said he was saving $70 a month. He paid no money out of his pocket. Could you imagine having an extra 70 bucks at the end of the month? And that's on a small scale. I mean, you know, don't forget, with raw solar, they're taking a $31,000, 7,000 kilowatt system that normally retails, and it sounds like I'm a salesman, but the normal retail price. Oh, and by the way, I spoke to Stefan today, and all the numbers are public record. You'll find out exactly what the person paid, how much in credits they got. Everything is public record. So guys, I think that's a beautiful thing because now you know, and nobody can deny it. And we're all in this together. It's the community getting together, and it's going to be amazing to see how much electricity we can actually generate just from our roofs, from what I call renting out our roofs. All right. So anyway, you know, getting back to the first clip I wanted to play tonight was from Ying Li, and it was the company in China, and it was done in German. But guys, the point is, solar is a universal language. I mean, who can argue with the sun? We all want to take advantage of the sun. And the more we take advantage of it, the better off it is. And on some, well, we don't have that one clip, but I mean, we were going to show you one clip tonight where it's gotten to the point where solar is cost compatible with the fossil fuels. But tonight we're juggling. So tonight we're going to go back to Elon Musk, and we're going to show the 60-minute interview. And he also did a clip for Think Big, and he talks about not only with Tesla, but the fact that we have to generate the electricity with Solar City. And then we're going to show you a clip on how solar panels are made. And guys, when you see how it's done, you're going to appreciate, and you'll develop a value for a solar panel. And you'll say, wow, look at all those electrons going to work for me. That's right, when you put solar panels on your roof, you're a job creator. That's right, you become a job creator. You're one of the best. And then, guys, we're gonna flip the page again. We're gonna play the clip from John Lennon, and we're gonna give Fox News and the fossil fuel companies and Rush Limbaugh the old bada bing. And when you hear some of the stuff that Rush Limbaugh says, you're gonna say, no wonder half the people in this country don't know if they're coming or going. They listen to this guy, and I tell you, you guys ever want to have an adventure? Between 12 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, put on I-95, put on WLAD. This guy is a fruitcake. And it's amazing, and you know, I tell you, Dave Ranelli, the guy that does the morning show, he's a conservative to the point where he's not logical anymore. And when I say not logical, I mean that. And Joey, I gotta say hi to my buddy Uncle Joey. Uncle Joey kicked me off his website again, off his Facebook page. If you guys wanna have an adventure, go to Things to Ponder. And what happened is Joe and some of his buddies, they all think I'm nuts, and that's fine. But the way, guys, the reason why we surround ourselves with the question marks, and what's the one thing that I always say to people when we're talking about global warming and climate change and data and facts and figures, the one thing I always say is be specific and name your sources. And once you do that, they go ballistic because they don't understand that their sources are invalid bull. They think a headline from the Climate Depot written by Mark Morano is proof. And they ignore a report from the IPCC, which was done by 200 lead authors. So guys, you see what I'm saying, but we don't do the bada binging until the second half. So John, beginning, and we'll take a look at the first clip, and this is a big clip on Elon Musk and solar and renewability, and let's have some fun. So hit it.
The reason I put so much time and effort into creating Tesla was because it has always seemed to me that that transportation will go electric and should go electric, but we have an unpriced externality in the negative effects of gasoline and on the environment, and also in the wars that we fight and national security and that kind of thing. Whenever you have an unpriced externality, you can't quite rely on the market to do the right thing. So in order to have electric vehicles come sooner than they otherwise would, I mean, electric vehicles were always going to be the long-term transportation mechanism. But to make that day come sooner, you have to bridge the gap with innovation. That was the goal with Tesla, is to try to serve as a catalyst to accelerate the day of electric vehicles. And I think when all's said and done, I'm hopeful that historians will look back on Tesla and say that Tesla advanced that by at least 10 years, which that would be a huge victory in my mind. And Solar City, of course, is on the energy production side of things, because it doesn't help if we have sustainable consumption of energy, but then that energy isn't produced in a sustainable way. And I feel quite strongly that solar power will be the single largest source of electricity generation by the midpoint of the century. In fact, just a simple extrapolation of the growth of solar power would show that that's obviously going to be the case. And also when you consider that the Earth is almost entirely solar powered today, and that the fact that we're not a frozen ice ball at, say, 4 degrees Kelvin, and it's just due to the sun, and the whole ecosystem is powered by the sun, there's just an itty-bitty amount of energy that we need to do complicated human things. This is a tiny amount of energy, really, compared to what the sun puts on the Earth every day. And we just need to capture a little bit of that and turn it into electricity. So we have to try to accelerate that with innovation, and that's what Solar City is about.
You know, guys, if you listen to what Elon said, there was one phrase in there that I swear by, where he says, you know, we'll never have to fight. We'll never have to send our kids to fight for sunshine. There's so much of it. I mean, take as much as you want, and wind is the same way. And I think next week we're gonna shift gears a little bit, because we want to show you some of the changes that have come. And just last week, Germany, believe it or not, got 70% of all their electric power from renewable sources. When it's going to get to the point, I forget, they called it reverse, or I don't know what, I didn't quite understand it, but it's going to get to the point where Germany's going to start selling their electricity to other countries, so everybody in Germany gets paid. But guys, with the solar revolution in Germany, what happens is, if you use fossil fuel, you pay a tax. And it's more or less what we want to do in this country, a carbon tax. It's like anything else. You're going to use something, you're going to burn it, you're going to put it in the air, somebody's got to clean it up. So pay for it. All right, now, and getting back to Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe, guys, a few weeks ago, I was talking about Lawrence Krauss. And sometimes the things that he says, they're so prolific, it almost sounds like poetry. And, we always play the clips. I'm a big fan of John Lennon, And he would just take stuff like the song "Nobody Told Me There'd Be Days Like This," and I'm sure he just took a phrase like "Nobody told me there'd be days like this. Nobody told me there'd be days like this," and it's just a sentence that he turned into a song. So in honor of my good buddy Uncle Joey, I want to dedicate this song, and it's going to be called "Be Specific and Name Your Source." Be specific and name your source. It's the logic that I endorse. It keeps the simple folks at a loss. So be specific and name your source. Bada bing! Joey! And they don't know what to do. They don't know. You mean my sister's cousin's brother's friend that said global warming ain't happening? That's not a source? No, Joe. No, I'm sorry. And the guy that fixes your car, I'm sorry, but, he's not a climate scientist either, And even when you pull into the gas station, the guy that, rings up the thing, Joe, it's time to face facts, babe. Time to face facts. And here's the one guy that's going to bring us to the facts, Elon Musk. And when you see what he's done with SpaceX and Tesla and taking the money that he made when he sold PayPal, and he walked away with, $200 million, what did he do? He almost lost it all. But guys, 60 Minutes did such a beautiful job with this clip. So John, hit it.
Comparing the Tesla Model S to other cars is like comparing an iPhone to a desk phone. It is a technological marvel that scorches the pavement, 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. Tesla is another revolutionary idea from the mind of Elon Musk, a 42-year-old Silicon Valley entrepreneur who built an industrial empire from the stuff of little boy dreams, fast cars, and rocket ships. Musk is an idealist who told us he had to start his companies so that man could colonize Mars and save the Earth. His sister says it's like her brother traveled into the future and came back to tell us all about it. So, what is the future like? Apparently, it's fast and smoke-free. The Tesla Model S is powered by 7,000 battery cells linked to an electric motor. No engine, no transmission, no tailpipe. As this company video shows, the dash is dominated computer that's constantly connected to the internet. It has a fanatical following. There's a waiting list that Elon Musk is trying to shorten, building 600 Model S's a week in this high-tech in Northern California. I have heard a lot of people describe you.
Okay, good. I mean, hopefully, on balance, hopefully mostly good.
How do you describe yourself?
I usually describe myself as an engineer. That's basically what I've been doing since I was a kid. I'm interested in things that change the world or that affect the future in wondrous new technology, where you see it and you're like, wow, how did that even happen? How's that possible?
How is it possible that Elon Musk could launch 2 impossible businesses, SpaceX, a builder of rocket ships, and Tesla, which could be the first successful car company startup in America in 90 years? How did you figure you were going to start a car company and be successful at it?
Well, I didn't really think Tesla would be successful. I thought we would most likely fail. But I thought that we at least could address the false perception that people had that an electric car had to be ugly and slow and boring like a golf cart.
But you say you didn't expect the company to be successful, then why try?
If something's important enough, you should try, even if the probable outcome is failure.
Important to Musk is reducing greenhouse gases, which he believes threaten the world. The Tesla will go about 250 miles on a charge And Musk is building a network of charging stations where the driver pays nothing for a fill-up. He hopes to make the stations largely solar-powered one day.
You can drive for free forever on pure sunlight. That's the message we're trying to convey. So even if there's a zombie apocalypse and the grid breaks down, you'll still be able to charge your car.
So there's a zombie apocalypse warranty.
Yes, exactly.
And if you're running from zombies, it's good to know the Model S won the highest quality rating in the history of Consumer Reports and has the government's highest safety rating. Musk may be changing the car the way Steve Jobs changed the phone. Like Jobs, he's a perfectionist in the art of engineering. His goal wasn't to show a profit, but to reveal the possibilities. It is a desire to discover that's also behind Musk's other line of vehicles. Only 4 entities have launched a space capsule into orbit and successfully brought it back: the United States, Russia, China, and Elon Musk. This Buck Rogers dream started years ago when he had a nutty idea to fly an experimental greenhouse to Mars, but he couldn't. He discovered that the price of rockets was astronomical. So now he builds his own.
I had so many people try to talk me out of starting a rocket company. It was crazy.
What did they tell you?
One good friend of mine collected a whole series of videos of rockets blowing up and made me watch those. He just didn't want me to lose all my money.
He never did launch that greenhouse, but now Musk is lofting commercial satellites and flying cargo to the space station for NASA at a fraction of the former cost. Musk's fascination with technology dates to his childhood in South Africa.
He just found everything interesting. He wanted to explore everything, knocked his teeth out because he was just falling off stuff. Kimball too, actually.
We spoke with his mother, May, sister, Tosca, and brother, Kimball.
He's a guy with unlimited ambition.
Ambition to do what?
Not a typical type of ambition.
Yeah.
It's more like he just needs to be constantly, his mind just needs to be constantly fulfilled. And the problems that he takes on therefore need to become more and more complex over time in order to keep him interested.
He was interested in computers early. At the age of 12, he wrote the software for a video game and sold it. Against his parents' wishes, he set his sights on the software capital of the world.
It seemed like the vast majority of such things came from the United States. I also read a lot of comic books. And they all seem to be set in the United States. So it's well, this is a good place. This is where I got to go to this place.
He earned degrees in business and physics at the University of Pennsylvania and asked his brother to join him in California.
When we moved to Silicon Valley, we had nothing. So we actually lived in the office. And we would sleep on the floor in the evening and go shower at the YMCA the next morning. And then we would be ready to go before some of our employees would arrive, so they wouldn't think we were actually sleeping in the office.
In that office, Musk invented a program that gave step-by-step directions between addresses. That's common today in cars and phones, but in 1995, it was magic. In 4 years, he made $22 million.
Only in America.
Right, only in America. I agree, absolutely.
Next, he started an online banking firm that he grew into PayPal, a system for making purchases on the internet.
And you sold PayPal to eBay for what?
It was about $1.5 billion. So that was it was a good outcome.
A good outcome?
Yes.
His share was $180 million, and he bet it all on Tesla and SpaceX. But at the age of 37, he hit rock bottom. His first rockets failed to reach orbit, and an early model Tesla Roadster had quality problems.
In 2008, the rocket company is not going well. You've
No.
had 3 failures.
Great.
The car company is hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
And the American economy has tanked in the worst recession since the Great Depression.
Right.
What was that year like for you?
And I'm getting divorced, by the way. To add to that. That was definitely the worst year of my life.
That terrible year was captured in a documentary called Revenge of the Electric Car. His plant was filled with flawed cars that couldn't be delivered.
Holy mackerel, Jesus. We have like an army of cars here. Like, Jesus.
Like we're going to be able to deliver 4 cars to the sales team.
This is frightening. It's really pedal to the metal here. Like, I mean, you know, each month that passes is literally costs us tens of millions of dollars. I mean, we need to appreciate that.
To save Tesla, Musk needed millions more from investors. His fortune was gone.
When we'd call people and say, hey, would you like to invest? They'd be angry that we just called. It's like, no, it's not only no, and you know, various expletives.
He was essentially broke.
Oh yeah, in debt, more than broke.
More than broke.
Yeah.
I remember waking up on a Sunday before Christmas in 2008 and thinking to myself, man, I never thought I was someone who could ever be capable of a nervous breakdown. But I felt this was the closest I've ever come. Because it seemed pretty dark.
T-minus 30 seconds, mark.
Toward the end of 2008, SpaceX prepared its 4th attempt.
We were running on fumes at that point. We had virtually no money.
So a 4th failure.
A 4th failure would have been absolutely game over.
Done.
Done.
SpaceX bankrupt.
Yeah, it's bad enough to have 3 strikes. Having 4 strikes, it's kaput.
But Flight 4 was flawless. In Musk's world, it lit the darkness. Then, as often, the week of Christmas became a time when little boy dreams are answered.
NASA called and told us that we'd won a $1.5 billion contract. And I couldn't even hold the phone. It's like, I just split it out. I love you guys.
They saved you.
Yeah, they did.
Financially and maybe even emotionally.
I'll tell you, that was definitely helpful. Yeah.
2 days later, on Christmas Eve, Tesla's investors decided to pour in more money.
So you were saved in the period of 3 days.
Yeah.
By 2 completely unexpected events.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for sure.
The rockets haven't failed since. His cargo capsule has docked 3 times with the space station.
Capture is confirmed.
And in the California plant, they're fitting seats for what they hope will be eventual manned missions. SpaceX is also testing a rocket that can be reused, softly landing on a column of flame. Another step on a longer journey.
I'd love to have SpaceX be the company that brings humanity to Mars, and I hope I see it while I'm still alive.
He's at SpaceX 3 days a week, 2 days at Tesla, and weekends are at home with his 5 sons from his first marriage and his second wife, Tallulah, whom he met in London.
It all happened very fast. We were engaged after, I think, sort of two weeks of knowing each other, and I was 22, and there were all these boys, and it was, which was the best part, and it was fast, and then we were in it.
You knew 2 weeks
Something like
before
that.
you got engaged?
Something like that.
What was so attractive?
Oh, he was very charming and definitely the most interesting and eccentric person I have ever met.
Elon Musk!
Tesla's stock has rocketed up nearly 500%. That's not based on the cars he's selling today. That price is counting on the hope that Tesla will create an electric car at 1/3 the cost of the Model S, which runs about $100,000. This is what stands in the way. This slab, covered in plastic, is the battery.
So this is essentially the bottom of the car. The front wheels would be there, the rear wheels would be right here. It fills up the entire bottom of the car.
That's right.
This is how it fits into the bottom of the chassis. Trouble is, the battery's so massive, Musk can't build a $35,000 car with acceptable range. To make Tesla success, he must reinvent battery manufacturing. Musk has just announced a $5 billion factory to be built in the U.S. which he says will make more lithium-ion batteries than all the other plants on Earth combined. Gambles like that have led a lot of people on Wall Street to bet against him, taking investment positions that count on Tesla stock to fail. But so far, those pessimistic investors have lost a lot of money.
What is it about you that seems to invite skepticism?
Well, I think it's because we're doing these things that seem unlikely to succeed. And we've been fortunate, and at least thus far they have succeeded.
Wow, we didn't even get... That caught us by surprise. I'm glad I wasn't eating a donut. All right, now, guys, you know, you heard Elon talk about the Gigafactory. And we've mentioned this before on this show. They announced where it's going to be. But wherever they build the Gigafactory, and that's going to be the factory that's going to make the lithium-ion batteries, it's going to make as many batteries in that one factory as are currently being produced in the whole world. So, as we said earlier, on earlier shows, wherever they build this factory, that's where you want to move, because they're going to need to employ 6,500 people. Good, quality, living wage jobs. So I don't care if you make pizzas or cut hair or whatever you do for a living. There's going to be 6,500 people with good, solid paychecks that are going to need services wherever they build a factory. So guys, wherever they build it, that's where you want to move to. All right, now the next clip, you know, we talk about solar so often and so much, but we never really show how it's made and what it's made out of. So this next clip is going to explain it all. And when you see, you'll understand why they're expensive. And the method that they use, just when I found out, I went, wow. I mean, these are, you'll see. John, hit it.
The fascinating field of photovoltaics, generating power with sand and the sun. Capturing solar energy is the end result of complex chemical and physical processes. As a first step, raw silicon is extracted from quartz sand. For use in the photovoltaics industry, the semi-metal must be 99.99% pure. To generate solar power, the photovoltaics industry utilizes the semiconducting properties of silicon. In special ovens, raw silicon is melted at temperatures of over 1,400 degrees centigrade. A thin rod, known as the seed crystal, is then submerged into the liquid raw silicon and pulled back up very slowly. At this step, the liquid silicon accumulates on the seed crystal and solidifies. Over 4 days, a silicon of up to 2 meters length takes shape. This basic round crystal, known as an ingot, is now cut into a rectangular shape. This is done for purely practical reasons. Later on, square-shaped solar cells can be installed much more effectively on the surface of a solar module. The ingots are cut into millimeter-thin slices using a very fine wire saw. The individual slices form the basis of each solar cell. Once the wafers have been cut, they are sent through a wash tunnel. This is because even the smallest piece of dust or dirt can compromise solar cell production. The wafer's surface is now very flat. Just like a mirror, many rays of light are reflected and can no longer be used to generate power. To prevent this reflection, the surface is etched and rough chemical bath. If the cells are put under a microscope, one can see the resulting pyramid structure. With this fine pyramid structure, light is refracted multiple times, allowing incoming light to be used far more effectively. The next step in solar cell production is diffusion. Here, a negatively charged phosphorus layer is added to each wafer's positively charged layer. In an oven heated to some 900 degrees centigrade, phosphorus atoms are injected with the help of nitrogen. The gaseous phosphorus-nitrogen mix is deposited on the wafer. At the interface between positive and negative charge layers, the free charge carriers created by the light are released. This generates an electric current. But how is the power that is generated in the individual cells transported? A stamp presses a silver alloy onto the front of the cells. This creates the typical grid pattern. This silver coating ensures that the power can be transported later on. The solar cells are now complete. They can generate and transfer power. But each cell has a different level of electrical conductivity. In a series of tests, the cell's conductivity is evaluated and sorted. Following the test phase, the solar cells are assembled. The cells are soldered together in such a way that the voltage accumulates. In a process referred to as lamination, the cells are assembled behind a pane of glass. As a result, they are protected from the elements for more than 25 years. One solar module contains 60 cells. When a number of modules are connected to one another, a solar power plant is created. And power is generated from the sun and the sand.
Guys, did you see how nice all those panels looked? I mean, wow. I tell you, panels put up properly and you know, they just look sharp. They look like they belong there. All right. So far we've managed to bail out of what could have been a real mess. And we'll work on the converter. But now we come to the point where we play the John Lennon clip, because after this, the gloves come off and the bada binging starts. So John, hit it.
I'm sick to death of hearing things from uptight, short-sighted, narrow-minded hypocrites. All I want is the truth now. Just give me some truth now. I've had enough of reading things by neurotic, psychotic, pig-headed politicians. All I want is the truth now. Just give me some truth now. All I want is the truth now. Just give me some truth now. All I want is the truth. Just give me some truth. All I want is the truth. Just
Tell me. You guys tell me. I mean, who's got more talent? John Lennon or me? I come up with a rinky dink. Be specific and name your source. Hey, I tell you, there's been so many things that Lennon's done. I mean, there's so much to appreciate with people like him. You know, people that push the envelope. And that's why we're here. You know, we push the envelope, and especially at this part of the show. We take no prisoners. When it comes to global warming and the climate deniers, no more. No more. We give them the old bada bing and we don't stop. And why? Because there's no more being nice. You know, you can't, you know, you got to call a spade a spade. Now, the next clip we're going to show is from, this is about Chris Hayes. You know, and he's on MSNBC. And of course, everything MSNBC does is wrong, and it's all a bunch of lies. And you know, but you're going to watch the video, and you guys be the judge. And I think you know, you'll see the different parts of it, and you'll say, "Hey, isn't it about time we started to do something?" So, John, hit it.
Last week, we brought you the story of Republicans and some Democrats in Oklahoma voting to tax solar power by way of a bill allowing utility companies to charge a monthly fee for residential solar power users. But that is just one small example of a far broader attempt to kill solar power. Today, a great piece in the LA Times pulls back the curtain on the staggering breadth of this effort. The Koch brothers, anti-tax activist Grover Norquist, and some of the nation's largest power companies have backed efforts in recent months to roll back state policies that favor green energy. Policies that require utility companies to achieve a certain share of its power from renewable sources, and a net metering system which allows residential solar power users to sell their unused power back to the utility company. These are the very policies under attack by right-wing groups. According to the LA Times, ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, recently drafted model legislation that targeted net metering. Of course, conservatives have had a long-standing animus towards solar power. The Reagan administration gutted the research and development budgets for renewable energy at the Department of Energy and actually had 32 solar panels that had been installed on the White House during the Carter administration dismantled. And there was one of the right's favorite targets, the Solyndra debacle, which was recycled for an ad last year in Arizona by the conservative group 60 Plus.
We've seen this before.
The true engine of economic growth will always be companies like Solyndra.
Connected companies getting corporate welfare. Now California's new Solyndras, Sunrun, and Solar City are getting rich off hardworking Arizonans.
Again, that ad was part of a broader effort in Arizona. According to the LA Times, a major utility and a tangle of secret donors and operatives with ties to ALEC and the Kochs invested millions to persuade state regulators to impose a monthly fee of $50 to $100 on net metering customers. Ultimately, a monthly fee of about $5 was imposed. There is a reason for all this ideological animus. Solar energy is the single biggest threat to the fossil fuel industry in this country. According to a recent report by the consulting firm McKinsey & Company, cost reductions will soon put solar, quote, within striking distance in economic terms of new construction for traditional power generation technologies such as coal, natural gas, and nuclear energy. So, if you're, the Koch brothers, and you've got a lot of money in fossil fuels, well, you've got reason to be nervous. We asked Koch Industries to respond to claims made in the LA Times piece, but have not yet received a reply. Instead, joining me now, Nikki Silvestri, Executive Director of Green for All, organization focused on building a green economy that lifts people out of power. And here's my favorite thing about the attack on solar from the fossil fuel industry and from conservatives is they say, well, all this is subsidies and we need to let the free market decide. There is nothing more ridiculously socialistic command and control than the current utility system. You have no choice. You don't get to pick where your power from. The entire thing is the most command and control, centrally planned thing that we have in our entire economy.
That is absolutely true, Chris. And we really have to sit and think about, what are we talking about? What is the argument? Solar is good for all. It creates jobs and it's healthy for us. And right now there is monopoly when it comes to power companies. We don't really have a choice. But now that solar is starting to become competitive, there's starting to be arguments against it, is really what we're seeing.
And the other part of this, of course, is all of this talk leaves out the biggest elephant in the room, which is climate change, which is that solar power is zero emissions. And all these companies and the Koch brothers have money invested in fossil fuel, to Exxon and whoever else that have money, they are polluting for free. They are not paying for that pollution right now. And so, yeah, if you don't charge them for the pollution, then it's got a pretty good cost profile on it.
That's absolutely true. And it also leads you to ask the question, what are you actually arguing against? One of the biggest issues when it comes to climate change, and one of the biggest attacks from the right, is you can't have both solutions that are good for the environment and good for the economy at the same time. But then you look at something like solar. We're in desperate need of jobs right now. And the solar industry was growing 10 times faster than other sectors in the economy. If you want an argument about a win-win solution, you've got solar.
Guys, if you want to be a job creator, just pick up the phone. Just pick up the phone, call Ross Solar. Say, hey, well, first you're going to take a satellite picture of your roof. But, guys, we keep hearing about the Koch brothers. And these guys don't stop. And then, I love the way they're such hypocrites. They always talk about the free market. They don't want to have nothing to do with the free market. They want you pulling up to that pump, putting money in their pocket every time you put gas in the tank. And I said on this show time and time again, put solar panels on your roof in a Tesla in your garage, and you don't care what the price of gas goes to. And guys, next week we're going to show you there's another little EV car out, and it's kind of like for running around town. And I tell you, when you see it, it's adorable. And it plugs right into your regular, your house outlet. And I'll show you, we like I said, we had trouble, but we'll make things good next week. Now, speaking of hypocrites, we're going to listen to Rush Limbaugh. And I don't know who did the whole video. You know, everything that we get off of YouTube. So, but like I said, you know, I was listening to Rush, and I just can't believe how people can sit there and listen to him without questioning anything that he says. They don't care. It's like they want to be told the things that they're being told. They don't care if it makes sense. They don't care if you can prove it. They don't care if it's factual. They don't care. They just want to hear what they want to hear. Right, Joey? Joey. I'm going to stop picking up. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. When he finally says to me, Rich, climate change is happening, global warming is real, what can I do to help? Then I'll say, Joe, okay, now we can talk. But I tell you, him and his buddies are the simple folk. Feel bad for him. And to have to deny science, can you imagine going through life having to deny things like 2 and 2 is 4, 2 and 2 is 4. You have to agree that it's 5 because Rush Limbaugh told you it was 5. And it doesn't matter what anybody else says. And like Brian Kilmeade, one day I'm listening to him, and I forget who he was talking to, but he says, you know what? I don't care what you tell me. When it comes to climate change, I'm not going to believe you. You're not going to believe me. So if the house is on fire and you smell smoke, you're not going to... You know, but the thing, and it gets to the point, these people are delusional. I mean, they're really missing a few screws, maybe a bunch of screws, maybe not just a few. But anyway, let's listen to good old Rush, that big fat white guy, and let's listen to him and how what he does to the American public for 3 hours a day. So, John, hit it.
A group of 50 international scientists released a comprehensive new report on the science of climate change that concluded that evidence now leans against global warming resulting from human-related greenhouse gas emissions. According to the study's authors, these are 50 international scientists. We got a consensus here, folks. We have our own little consensus. 50 international scientists. And according to them, the hypothesis of human-caused global warming comes up short not merely of full scientific certainty, but of reasonable certainty or even plausibility. The weight of evidence now leans heavily against the theory of man-made global warming. Of course it does. We simply don't have that kind of power. Even if we were all diabolical and hated the Earth, even if we wanted to melt the Arctic Ocean short of a nuclear detonation, we couldn't do it, and even then we might have trouble. We just don't have this power that the left assigns to us. They're really contradictory about this, because on the one hand, the left tells us that we're no different than rats or any other animal. On the other hand, they tell us that we're so dangerous and so powerful that our existence alone threatens pristine nature. They're all over the board on this. But the science is now documented to be a hoax. And now more and more scientists are signing on not only to the hoax aspect, but they're signing on to the fact that it's not even plausible, this contention, that global warming is caused by man. We're not even talking, is it scientifically proven or provable? It isn't even plausible in science vernacular. They write that we conclude no unambiguous evidence exists for adverse changes to the global environment caused by human-related CO2 emissions. In particular, the cryosphere is not melting at an enhanced rate. Sea level rise is not accelerating. No systematic changes have been documented in evaporation or rainfall, in the magnitude or intensity of extreme meteorological events, and an increased release of methane into the atmosphere from permafrost or sub-seabed gas hydrates is unlikely. The authors also note that forward projections of solar cyclicity imply the next few decades may be marked by global cooling rather than warming. What? These scientists actually factor the sun into all of this? Why, who knew? Yes, global cooling despite continuing CO2 emissions. And these guys, these 50, warn against using imperfect climate models to advocate for a one-size-fits-all climate policy. This paper was produced, the Heartland Institute published it, released it yesterday. Lead authors Craig D. Idso, Robert M. Carter, and S. Fred Singer. They worked with a team of scientists to produce a 1,200-page report that's comprehensive, objective, and faithful to the scientific method. And as I mentioned yesterday, they have to do this because the left puts forth science to document their politics. Because that's all global warming ever has been. Man-made global warming, nothing but a political issue. An opportunity for the left to advance its agenda of bigger government, higher taxes, less freedom, all of that. More control over your life because you're responsible for it. You have to be reined in. You have to be controlled. Left to your natural instincts, you'll destroy everything. The Democrats, they know best. They're going to put rules and laws and taxes into place that will control your natural destructiveness. And they've backed it all up with their science models. Well, the science models are hoax. But the scientists that don't believe this have to then come up with their own science. They just can't stand up and say these guys are wrong. And so more and more of the climate deniers have been documenting their refutation scientifically, all for the UN's IPCC and whatever open-mindedness they might find at the United Nations and in the media.
All right, now guys, you saw the graphic right there. It was put out by the Heartland Institute. And who is the Heartland Institute? A Koch-funded think tank. And what did the Heartland Institute do? They came up and they developed the NIPCC, which is the non-governmental panel on climate change, so they could raise doubt on the IPC. Now, Rush said they had, 50 scientists, I think, or my figures for the NIPCC, they had 2 lead authors and 35 contributors. And in 2011, they had 3 lead authors with 8 contributors. Guys, the IPCC had 500 lead authors, 2,000 expert reviewers, 100 nations participated in the study. There was unpaid volunteers. They were required to identify the different theories. Guys, you see what's going on here? And Rush says that it's fact. He has a bunch of boneheads that make stuff up to confuse the simple folk, like Uncle Joe, who sits there and his buddies, and they post headlines. That's all they do. Half the times I don't even read the articles. All right, I think we might be able, we're going to squeeze the next clip in, and then I think we'll go out. Guys, what's going on is the amazing Randy offered $1 million to anyone that could prove they had psychic abilities. So we want to show you that clip first. So John, hit it.
Now that should be, a violinist can play the violin, I would say. A dentist can fix teeth. But the psychics, they apparently can't do this sort of thing.
If James Randi looks familiar, maybe you've seen him before. He's a career magician who's done thousands of appearances on stage and screen over the last 50 years. But these days, his claim to fame isn't making things disappear, it's making fakes disappear. Over the last decade, Randi has challenged dozens of would-be psychics, faith healers, prophets, and purveyors of all manners of products. His challenge is simple. Prove it, and I'll make you rich.
I'm willing to be shown $1 million worth of willing to be shown. I can't say that they don't exist and that the powers don't exist. I never say that. I merely say, show me.
While many have tried, each of these files represents a challenge, nobody has ever collected a dime. In one famous example, Randi challenged Sylvia Brown, a psychic, live on The Larry King Show. That was almost 7 years ago. While she initially accepted the challenge, she never followed through.
Finally got in touch with her through some that we had, and she said, I don't know how to reach James Randi. Now, wait a minute. I'm in the phone book. Sylvia Brown talks to dead people. I'm alive, as you may have noticed. She can't find me?
We called the Sylvia Brown Corporation to ask about the challenge and received only this email in response. Our organization prefers not to comment on this story. Please note, though, if you do have psychic powers and need some extra cash, move fast. The challenge only lasts another couple of years. For Money Talks, I'm Stacey Johnson.
Physicist Christopher Keating is offering $10,000 to anyone who can use the scientific method to prove that either climate change does not exist or that climate change is not something that has been amplified by human activity. Now, to give you the details of this story, he is offering two prizes. One that will pay $10,000 to anyone who can prove via the scientific method that anthropogenic climate change is not real, and one that will pay $1,000 to anyone who can provide any scientific evidence at all that it isn't real. So I absolutely love this because obviously he's able to offer a large sum of money because he is someone who has worked as a physicist for 20 years. He's someone who's been studying climate change as well for a very long period of time, and he knows, he's very sure of the fact that not only does it exist, of course it has a lot to do with human activity. And he also did something really smart. He compared climate deniers to those who work in the tobacco industry and some of the lies that they pushed out there. So let me give you what he said. He says, compare the claims of deniers of today to the people that denied a link between tobacco and lung disease, and see how similar they are. The tobacco people funded certain scientists to undermine valid research. At the same time, they called into question the ability of scientists receiving government funding to remain unbiased. They claim lung disease was just a natural event. Climate change deniers today are making the same arguments about global warming. And just to give you a little tidbit here, according to Greenpeace, the Koch brothers have funded climate science deniers by the tune of $67 million. Amazing.
Yeah. So look, Koch brothers are in the energy business. They're in the oil business, right? So it's in their financial interest to give $67 million. They're not doing it for their health to those scientists so they can create doubt. They don't need to win on this. All they need to do is create doubt. So you go, well, I don't know. Is it worth doing something?
The Koch brothers again, right, guys? I mean, are you starting to see a pattern here? All right, listen, I want to apologize for the converter. You know, I mean, I tried so hard to get this together, and I really feel terrible. I mean,